West Tigers podcast, episode 489. And Joel's given himself the evening off. He's actually away tonight. Not sure where he is, Josh. You got any idea on Joel's whereabouts?
Probably over in Perth. So look, after a new club for a new podcast. I think he might be, t touring the facilities of the Perth Reds. I think the PNG Chiefs was a little too far for Joel, so and a little too far away from their launch. So I think he's decided on the Perth Reds or Perth Bears, sorry, as they are. So
Yeah, Perth. But it's funny you say that because he has dropped a couple of jokes lately about
yeah.
potentially starting a new podcast for the Bears. Or I know I've done a little bit of tongue in cheek and said maybe we should do PNG Chief podcast, but we'll stick solid, mate. There's only a few of us to keep this flag flying. So
Every year's a year closer to another grand final win, I say. So.
yeah, so they say. I'd like to think we're getting a bit closer, but who knows what we're getting closer to? Every year's a year closer to the grave, Josh. So maybe that's what we're angling towards. But hopefully things will pick up sooner rather than later for everyone's sanity. But I thought we'd just start out with a little bit of Tigers news and probably more around the injury development. So interesting today. I actually read a story on ESPN website about Jock Madden. So I didn't realize. I knew he hadn't played for a few weeks, been I think close to a month. But as the story was, he actually the reason for his absence was he got kneed in the balls by Samuela Fainu. I assume at
Oh, by
training.
teammates as well. Just to work harder, mate. Get on with it. Yeah, yeah. Nice, nice.
Exactly.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I assume it was a training. I don't think it was a extracurricular activity they were doing outside of Concord. But yeah, apparently developed a hematoma and
Oh,
within a couple of hours was undergoing emergency surgery. So that could not have been a pleasant situation to be in.
I mean, for all the criticism of footballers, they definitely put their bodies through it, and that is that makes me wince just at the thought of it, to be honest. So yeah, I give him credit for surviving, let alone coming back. So yeah,
So do
ouch.
I. Actually, when I read that, and I thought, yeah, we will mention this on the pod because that's pretty significant, and he's making his comeback this week, which is
Mm.
great. But Josh, have you ever been hitting the balls?
I mean, obviously, I have, once or twice. I did today play a game of soccer against our under 11s team as a celebration for the last training session of the year earlier this evening, and I did, cop one in the balls from one of the under 11s. So, and that was fairly painful, but not to the level of hematoma like Jock. So. I reckon Sam Fainu's knee would do a fair bit of damage if it hit you in the nuts too. So. Yeah, not nice.
Not nice at all. The only time I've been fairly significantly hitting that area was as a young fellow. I was playing cricket in the nets with a mate of mine who was a fast bowler. We were probably only maybe 12, 13, somewhere in there, but he could bowl pretty quick. We're using a cricket ball, and I didn't have a box. And I remember copping one right in the jats, and I tell you what, it hurt for a very long time. Dropped me to my knees, and the pain was pretty horrific. I don't believe I had a hematoma. If it did, it managed to clear up on its own. But yeah, pretty sensitive area to be hit in. So, Jock, welcome back to the NRL, mate. Hope you're ready for ready for a cracking game, and I hope there's no further impact to those crown jewels anyway. So,
Hmm.
welcome back. But just on injuries, and I guess the main one coming out of Concord this week was on Adam Doueihi. So obviously did his shoulder last week, and the club's decided it's time for surgery. So I did see that he's scheduled to have that shoulder reconstruction surgery this week at some point. I'm not sure when, but that officially ends his 2026 season.
I mean, I think it's good. I mean, it even before last week, I think he was obviously playing injured with that injury. So, and as we all saw in the game, it did seem to aggravate. It didn't even even when he was running, it seemed to be painful last week. So, it's probably not a surprise. But, look. Good for him to get the surgery. In my personal opinion, they should probably send all of them that need surgery for surgery now and have them ready for as early as possible in preseason. So, yeah, look, I think it's good that he's getting it done, and clearly it had reached a point. I don't think the results of these last three games are dependent. And to be honest, we're already losing. So, what are you risking? It's a shame that I thought that might see Latu get a run today, but it'll be good to see that Jock's had the balls to return and play with our team. So yeah, it's good. It's good.
That was very clever, Josh. Well done, mate. Um, yeah, look, it's a real shame, right? Because we've had a number of key players go down with significant injuries all year, and we've had a number of them play on through short rehab periods to try and stay on the field, which has been obviously very hindering in performance because you can see it in the way a lot of them play. And we've all said that even like Doueihi looks a little bit of a shadow of himself. Taylan was nothing like he was at the very start of the year, although he did his shoulder. I think it was round 2 when he first did his shoulder, Taylan, and then ended up short rehab and then carrying it for periods through the season until I think he did his in round 7 the last time. So what
Yeah,
I did read with the rehab and the recovery for a shoulder reco is 3 to 5 months. Like it's 5 to 6 months is the maximum time or the minimum time until you can return to full contact, which is a very, very long time.
yeah. I mean, you'd think with the ones that the like Dewey and Buller's obviously and Herbert kind of carrying shoulders, theirs would be on the minor end because they've still been able to play. So hopefully they're back. 3 months gets you into November, and with the World Cup, that's probably preseason. They're probably not returning normally until after Christmas anyway. Um, Taylan, well, he at least went out earlier a while ago, so perhaps
Yep.
that was a blessing. But so hopefully they're all back by Christmas would be which I guess with the World Cup, lots of players weren't, even if they're not injured, probably aren't back till after Christmas. So, yeah, it's quite painful. It's quite painful. So, but yeah, lots of, I mean, across the comp, there's been a lot of injuries this year and a lot of guys. So, um, yeah,
Gonna
not
have
good.
No, yeah, not good. Yeah, Taylor did his round 17. He's the final one. So if you figure in 5 to 6 months, he's looking, like you said, probably around about just before Christmas. So you'd think that before he gets into any type of full contact work, that's likely going to hold off over into the new year, just to make it, better safe than sorry. And I dare say Adam Dewey's not going to be any rush to be getting back into full contact work either. So you'd have to think he's probably looking about January till he's doing full contact. And would I be right to say that Vegas is that in February next year?
Vegas is in February. Yes, I believe so. Let
Probably
me
towards
just
the end
look
of
that
Feb, I
up.
think. Yeah, I think it'd be towards the end of Feb. So that gives probably AD, I think maybe a good 6 to 8 weeks of contact work before our first game of the season. That's assuming he's still at the club, of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
that's
think he will be, but and especially coming off an injury, that probably makes it more likely he's staying. Yeah, 27th of February, the Vegas game, so not that far away, and that puts, you'd imagine we'll have a couple of maybe one trial before we go to Vegas. So that's a while away. I doubt some of them will play in that, but yeah, 27th of is not that far away after shoulder surgery. You're right.
not that far away, but I guess as a fan's perspective, it's far enough away that we get to have a rest, which is great, Josh. So 3 more weeks,
Very
mate.
excited.
3 more weeks, and we can put our feet up and relax a little bit. Just on the injuries, though, so obviously Kai Pearce-Paul, I've seen a little bit of talk on socials and a few other podcasts asking whether he might be back before the end of the season. I don't see any rush to bring him back anymore, given where we are.
Yeah, and the injury report that came out this week said he'd be back for round one. I think that's probably the decision they've made. It'd be interesting though to see if he plays the World Cup. That's like he might not
Yeah,
come back for us. But interesting if he plays. Obviously, he'll be in the England squad if fit. And obviously that's like 5 or 6 weeks later. He was originally due though to come back in the last couple of rounds. I can understand not bringing you back for 1 or 2 games with us, but yeah, interesting to see if he plays the World Cup and yeah, hopefully. I don't mind. I hope he does. He could probably do with a little bit of footy, to be honest, and high level footy. And then as long as he doesn't get injured again, that's probably fine. So, yeah, it's probably less concerning with something like a pec, where I think once it's fixed,
yeah,
it's fixed. So, hopefully he'll be back. So, no sign of Royce Hunt either, who also did his pec early in the
yep.
year. But it does say return TBA. I don't know if that means they're thinking about this season, or they're just not sure if Royce will be here next season, so they haven't penciled in a day. So interesting.
That's possible too. So yeah, Ross did his peck round 14, and Kai Pearce-Paul did his peck in round 15. It's unbelievable the amount of injuries. I guess consistent injuries. A couple of pecks. There's been quite a few shoulders that the guys have had. I don't know whether that's just bad luck or whether it's poor, strength work or poor management during the season or during the preseason. I'd tend to think it's more bad luck.
I think it is more bad luck mostly, I would say. I mean, it depends on the type of injury, I guess, and some of them have kind of fought through them and kind of probably, maybe they've done it a little bit and maybe kept playing, and maybe that's how you manage the injuries. But I think we've seen across the comp this year, there's just been an extensive amount of injuries. But I was having a look at the Tigers list, and the only ones to have played, I think we've had 8 players play more than 15 games, but it's only ones to play 20, at least 20 of the 21 is Samuela Fainu, Taylan May, who only missed one game. Like, give him credit. He does a lot of work and he's only missed one game, and that was to the birth of his child. Fanua Pole, and Alex Seyfarth. And sorry, it's Sunia Taruva, who, whether he plays this week, will be interesting. But those 5 guys have kind of played everyone. It's interesting that the guys in our team for that, though, looking through, other than Royce Hunt, it's actually the props who have managed to play every game
Yeah,
this year. Which is a funny one. Usually, you think that'd be the place that you see more injuries, but it's been more in the back line where we've had lots of injuries this year. So, I wonder if that. Yeah, it's just very interesting. I think the props have been happily for us, given our shortage of backup, with the props have mainly stayed
I
on the
know.
field. So, mm.
Imagine if had been decimated into props this year. That would have been very interesting to see what Benji would have put out in the field.
Well, it hasn't taken much. So much. I
No,
mean, since Royce Hunt went down, and KPP in the back row, we've been we've had Mav Geyer playing prop, and we've had Bunty come up, and I don't think there's many other options behind that. So that was probably
Heath,
it has been luck. Heath, obviously, Heath
next
Mason
one up.
in the middle. He's been playing great 15 minutes in the middle last week. So yeah, excited by that.
Who knows?
Um,
Maybe if we had have had a bit more, unfortunate, luck in the props, maybe Benji would have turned us more into a touch footy team.
you
Because
never
Benji did
know.
come from a touch footy background, so maybe he might have changed the game.
Maybe we can
Um,
have 13 5/8s play next year, Nick, and just have a 5/8 in every position. So, that'll be a good approach.
well, the way we're going, we probably could. It's funny to talk about injuries. Well, it's not funny. It's actually quite sad. But I did send that screenshot. So my Facebook memories make me well, they make me chuckle, but they also make me cry a lot. So I had a quick look today. I shared this screenshot with the podcast boys today in our chat. But on this day 12 years ago, so thinking about how decimated we've been with injuries. So I posted this 12 years ago, 2014, 19th of August. West Tigers injury list at the time was Keith Lulia, neck. He was out for 8 to 12 weeks. Aaron Woods, knee injury. No update on return. Dean Hallertau, hamstring. No update on return. Pat Richards, hamstring indefinite. James Tedesco, knee indefinite. Tim Moulton, knee indefinite. Braithen Astor, bicep indefinite. Tim Simona, how about good old Tim? What a player he was. Good honest man, knee indefinite. David Nofaluma, another great West Tigers boy, knee season, and Liam Fulton concussion retired. The great Liam Fulton. So that was another year that we actually got smashed with our injury toll. No doubt had an impact on our performance through the back end of that year, but we just don't get the luck, Josh. And it's funny because when I think about our performances this year and where we sit on the ladder and how it's all spiraled out of control from about probably even before mid-season, I keep going back to injuries. And yeah, a lot of clubs have a lot of injuries, but we just seem to have had a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, a lot of clubs do have a lot of injuries, but I think it depends on the one. It depends when you get them, how long they last for, which players they are to, and what kind of depth you have. So, and then the teams you're playing during those weeks of injuries, and also their injuries at the same time. Like, and we look at some of the other clubs this year, like the Broncos and the Storm have had plenty of injuries, and they're also, decimated and down the bottom of the ladder, and they're clubs you wouldn't necessarily expect that to happen. So, I mean, if it can happen to them, it can definitely happen to the West Tigers. So I agree with you. I think injuries has played a really key part this year, and I think that's probably exposed what was, we said in the preseason there were some positions where we were fairly weak from a depth point of view. Um, and it's not just the weeks you miss with injury. I think what we've seen is guys have come back, but they're playing not at 100%. They're kind of playing like I would, I think you go across our squad, Buller's not been 100%, Doueihi's not been 100%, Twal and Samuela haven't been 100% when they came back. I know Taylan May's been on restricted training for most of the second half of the
Mm.
season. He's still playing, but he hasn't, so it's not just, I think in the first 8 weeks, not only did we not have many injuries, but the guys playing were playing without injuries. So, whereas in the back end, you might have more guys back, but they're playing with injuries. And
Yep.
it's something the club needs to investigate, but I don't think it's
Mm.
all necessarily a club's fault. I think, as we've seen, it happened to the Broncos this year, happened to the Storm this year. So, yeah, if it happened to them, it's probably certain to be able to happen to us. So, yeah,
So
not great though.
no, not great. A lot of fans and a few other social media people and podcasters, including our friend Zach from Tiger Town, shared something on his story. I think it might have been yesterday, about Latu and the bad luck that he's had. You know, he's been around for 3 years and we've failed to play him in the position that we want to see him in, which is halfback. And this week was going to be the opportunity. And, lo and behold, he goes and hurts his hamstring. So he's out, to be confirmed when he's back. Not too sure. And then I remember on the last podcast on Sunday night, Joel made a comment, which I thought about after we recorded. He said that the West Tigers training ground at Concord must be built on some type of ancient burial ground. And that made me think afterwards, you know what happened when they were actually excavating for the rebuild? Is they found an Aboriginal artifact. Do you remember that in the dirt?
It was that way. It was delayed for like 12
For
months,
ages.
and
Yeah.
one end. So yeah, because it was a burial ground of some kind or something. So yeah, maybe it is cursed, but I don't know. I think we were fairly bad when we were training at other spots too. So maybe it's not. Maybe we are the curse and not necessarily the ground. But yeah, look, I mean, but South had the same about their new facility they opened, and they had lots of injuries. I think they even got a what was it? Even got a witch doctor or something in to try and remove the cursing. So I think when you're a team that's losing, you think there's a curse, and when you're winning, you think there's luck on your side. So yeah.
Do you think it's time? Do you think we have to go down that path of spiritual healing? Because it couldn't do any harm, could it?
We should try everything, Nick. I think that's where we are, is we should try every possible thing. Yeah, yeah. Perhaps we should bring back the barber as well. Maybe removing the barber as
Yes.
cursed the club, although I don't think we were doing well when it was here, so perhaps not.
I'd bring back the barber for sure. At least you know where the boys are. Every probably few days, by the look of some of their haircuts, to be in house rather than outside somewhere. But yeah, bring back the barber. Let's get a petition started. End of the season. Going to bring back the barber for
That'd be a
Concord.
good off-season petition. Bring back the barber.
Bring
Yeah.
back the barber. Exactly. Mate, before we get into any nitty gritty, I thought we'd try and lighten it up a little bit and look ahead to 2027, because there's a lot of bad stuff and there's a lot of bad stories and the whole 8 in a row and all this sort of stuff and who we're playing on the weekends. There's a lot of stuff that is bringing everyone's moods down. So I'd like to look ahead to round one 2027. The reason is because at the start of this year, when we were pretty close to full strength, we played with so much hope. We gave everyone hope. And I honestly think that a full strength West Tigers team with some smart inclusions could be very effective, and give us hope again next year. And if we can just get a little bit of luck going into 2027 with injuries, then maybe we can push a little bit further. So I thought we might have a quick look at the run through. Now, I'll go through my 1 to 17. I think most of the players fairly obvious, but please feel free to jump in if you disagree.
Absolutely.
So obviously, number one, I've got Dream Buller.
Yep.
His
Supportive.
form's been a little bit down, but he's definitely got my first run at fullback there. I've got on the wings, I've got Taruva locked into one side. The other side, it's a toss up between Makasini and Junior Tupu at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I had too, is that top up. I probably have Tupou in front at the moment. I mean, he's in the side and he's playing well, so at the moment he keeps that spot. Um, Interesting, Taruva's been dropped to the bench this week, but I agree with you. I think maybe that's just signs of a hard season and a little bit of injury, and probably because he's against Daniel Tupu on that wing, where Taruva's giving away about 30 centimeters height difference, so maybe that's just a
Yeah.
one-off situation. But I would also have him locked into that wing position too. So yeah,
Yeah. I'd
fairly
be leaning
interesting.
towards Makasini starting. Hopefully, he gets a good off-season under his belt and can fix up any niggles. So we'll see how he goes during the off-season. Centers, Jack Averillo, Taylan May.
Yeah,
Lock
no
them in.
doubts.
Now, halves, always give me an interesting one. Now, Joel kind of mentioned this in our chat today, but I kind of agree. I've actually got in the number 6 jersey, I've got Adam Doueihi, and I've got Latu in my halfback jersey.
Yeah, I do too. And this is the one when I was looking at mine where I was moving it around a bit and I thought, and I thought, do I have Doueihi and Andrews in the halves? Do I have Latu at lock? But I went back and watched some of Latu's the game highlights from the couple of games that Latu has last year started at halfback, and I was like, wow, he was actually I was very impressed. It kind of brought it back to me that actually this kid's got it. So, yeah, I would have Latu at starting half. It also gives you Latu Doueihi gives you a left and right side combination. So I think that would be my starting halves if you can get both of them on the field for more than 2 weeks. So which is
Agreed.
always a challenge.
Agreed. Okay, as we move into the forwards, I'm going to go into what I'm pretty sure is going to be locked in. I'm going to start with the back rowers, Samuela and Pearce-Paul.
Yeah,
I don't think you can go past those boys. We're going to lock in upper side Coruscant into the number 9 jersey.
yeah.
Now we
Question
start.
actually on that. With
Yeah,
with with Brayley coming and with Appy getting a bit older, the only probably consideration there is if do you play someone like Brayley on the first 20 minutes, like get him out there
yep,
doing the hard stuff, and then Appy plays the last 60, instead of
yep.
having a break and having to bring a guy on and off. Do you do 20 and 60? But I think Appy's the captain. I think you probably start there. But that's probably the consideration for me next year is do you make it easier for like Appy does so much, and so maybe you make it easy and some Brayley comes on and tackles for the first 15 or 20 minutes and then gets hooked and Appy plays the rest of the game. So
That's not a bad shout, and it'd be very interesting to see what Benji comes up with game plan wise. So I could see that working as well. So yeah, not a bad shout at all. Let's go into the props. So Taylan May obviously locked into one side. Now we are short in props, and we've had this conversation that prop is probably a position we need to look at. The problem is, and I had a quick look at Zero Tackle website this afternoon. There's not many available.
there's not much out there, is there? No.
So my short term solution, unless we can find a miracle during the off season, I'm actually putting Alex Twal into starting prop with Taylan May. So that's going to change something at 13, but I'm going to bring Twally back into the prop rotation. I just think Twally can play that prop role. He can play as a starting prop. He can play big minutes if he has to. He's got unbelievable defense. I think he's gone up a level in attack this year just with the way he runs and he's developed that offload. So I'm going to put him back in the prop rotation.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, I had Twal starting at lock, but I think I was probably, but that would probably also I would have him starting there, but moving into the prop rotation. Like I always like the idea of him kind of starting for 20 minutes and then moving into, say whoever's in the prop roles. I had May and Pole, but I have enjoyed, and I think that's where you'll go as Pole off the bench in the last little while. So I don't mind the change.
We'll get
Yeah,
to the bench. We'll get to the bench in a
yeah,
second.
fair enough.
Now I'm going to go to the number 13 jersey.
Heath Mason.
Not
Sorry, I don't
quite.
want to steal your thunder.
Not quite. But for me, I think we need a different and a dynamic point of attack to assist our backs. So I want a ball playing lock now. I know I've spoken about AD moving him to 13. We've spoken about Latu potentially being a 13, but I'd forgotten about the guy that actually hasn't played yet since coming to our club very late in the season is Josh Schuster. And I actually think with a really good off season under his belt, and I know he hasn't played for a little bit, and I know he's had a lot of mental demons, but I watched highlights. He's got highlights going back 5, 6 years on YouTube.
Mm.
He's been around a while. He just hasn't been in a great spot to play footy lately, but the kid can play. He can play. He's naturally, I know he's lean at the moment, but he's naturally a big boy. So if he has a really good season on the weights, he's got his head in the right spot. I honestly think he could be a brilliant option distributing either side in that 13 jersey next year.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. Would you? And I hadn't given that a thought, just because he hasn't played, and I hadn't crossed my mind when I was whipping together my team. The other consideration there is because the other option I thought of was moving either Doueihi or Latu into that lock role and having someone else in the halves, and I had Andrews in mind. But the other option is there you could have Schuster in that right hand side. If Adam does end up leaving or Adam's injured, is that you could have Schuster in that right hand side. And he needs to play right back row.
Good.
Could
Yeah.
play that right hand side half, and then one of the others, Latu or Andrews on the left. But that's really interesting at lock. I mean, I don't know if he could do the defensive workload, but as you said, he's looking much fitter than he ever looked before. So perhaps he could. Yeah, it's a really interesting call, Nick. Really big call. Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Would add
Straight.
some attacking spark.
It would, yeah, and I think he can actually hold his own in defence. But I would like to see him before the end of the year. I had a quick look at the Cup team this week, and I don't think he's named. So I think he may still be out with that throat injury from last week.
He's
Um,
not named, but I will say something. The Ron Massey Cup side, the one under ours, um, yeah, there's a gap there at 5'8", and I do wonder if that means they're holding off, and Stevanovic might drop back, and Schuster, if he's fit, might be a late inclusion there. There's always a lot more ducks and drakes in the New South Wales uh, Cup one. If you go into New South Wales Rugby League, the Roosters haven't named a fullback, a centre, a winger. So the fact they can get over just not naming three guys says you can be fairly flexible in Cup. So um,
yeah.
wouldn't shock me if he got a late call up. I'd love to see it. I'd be very excited if he did get a late call up to the Cup. So.
So would I, and I just have to fix this because I've just noticed, and people on YouTube will notice I've been Joel Helms for about half an hour, but I've just changed to Nick Hayes. So name has changed. Sorry for the confusion. Let's get on to the bench. So at 14, I do have Jaden Brayley in that 14 jersey. So I'm kind of like you. I can see him obviously helping Uppy out a lot. Got a lot of experience. I think he said he's played 170 first grade games or something around that number.
Yep.
Um, Also an option, I suppose, for 13, but I, I did actually initially have him in the 13 jersey, but I think I'd rather him be a backup lock or a rotation. Oh, sorry, a backup hooker or a rotation hooker with Uppy.
Yep.
And think about another option for that 13 jersey. So he's on my bench in the 14 jumper. On the bench with Jaden, I've got Alex Seyfarth. I just can't have him out of the 17. I
Yeah, he's
know
been good this year.
he
I
has,
reckon he's had been all right year this year. So, yep,
I,
yep,
I, and I actually still think he's playing with a lot of enthusiasm.
yep,
Given where we're at, I think he's having a real crack. So
yep.
I'm happy with the way he's been going. Sione, I've got him on the bench with Fanua. So they're my two impact boys. As you said, I think Fanua is much better, as we've probably spoken about all season, coming in off the bench.
And
Um,
no room for Royce Hunt after his barnstorming first half of the season this year.
uh, Look, he could always come in and fill a bench spot, but I think there's better options than Royce. If Royce can continue to improve his aerobic fitness levels and get a bit more, minutes into his engine, then I wouldn't say no. So I don't know what the plan is. Is Royce staying? Is he signed on for another year, or is that still up in
Yeah,
the
he's
air?
on contract for next year, so it's contract through next year. I mean, that doesn't mean he's necessarily staying, but
Okay.
I haven't heard any word of him going anywhere, and I don't I feel like yeah, he's on contract. I think he's on contract, and we're already short of props, so I
We
can't
are.
imagine that we're rushing him out the door either. So Um,
So
I'd have Royce on the bench still. I thought it's been noticeable since he's been out of the side, that impact around that kind of
yep.
30 minutes to 50 minutes period. So
Can't
yeah.
disagree. I think he's probably going to be next on my bench list. And especially because I've moved Twally into the props, I think that just helps to push someone like Royce down just a little bit.
Mm.
Um, Now, what about Bunty? Is he around next year? Was he here on a 1 year
1 year deal, but
deal?
there hasn't been any talk of him going home or staying. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting probably to
we'll see what
see
he
what
does.
plays out there. I'd be happy to keep him at the club though if they could find give him a top for 30 spot. I think we need the depth in the props, and I think he's been good enough as a kind of fourth or fifth, probably if you're moving Twal in, he's kind of probably fifth or sixth option in the props. So I think it's good
Yeah.
depth for a team without much of it. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I guess next on the list, that's my 1 through 18 now, I think. But then you've got guys like Jared Hayward and Javon, which I think we'll see a bit more of. I know they're still both fairly young, but I'd like to see them develop a bit more and also get the opportunity if it comes up next season in the NRL at times.
Yeah, and I'd imagine if we're playing Doueihi and Latu in our halves, I mean, no one's expecting. I mean, we'd love to, but I don't expect you getting 24 games out of each of them. And I think Andrews becomes the first cab off the rank when one of them's inevitably injured. Uh, the other two options I had for my bench, without certainty, is Sakura. I think as a guy who plays center, can play wing, has played second row in the juniors. I think and he's a big body. I think he's probably a good one to have on that bench and probably
Yep.
come through there. And look, last week's star lock forward and absolute utility, Heath Mason. I've turned around on Heath Mason. I think the kids impressed me. Like, thought in that middle bit there, and I think he's come in a couple of other times this year and not been like he plays at fullback. He's been okay. Like I think he'd come off the bench and do 20 minutes for you when needed, as that kind of doesn't play every week reserve, and maybe you rotate. I mean, that's the reality. You're going to have to rotate that 18th and 19th man around a bit. We've seen Tavana come in and out, and a variety of guys in and out. So, yeah, but I think fairly similar. I think the big question marks are around what do we do with the halves and what do we do with lock forward. I think those are the big
Yep.
questions. And then a little bit comes down to injuries as how the forwards get shuffled. But unless we sign anyone else, but the Josh Schuster call is a very interesting one, Nick. That's a very interesting thing. It would have, as you said, would have been great to see him play these last few weeks in New South Wales Cup and just see where he's up
Yep.
to. But if he gets a full off season behind him and he's already looking fit, then he's probably already had kind of an off season at this stage. So maybe he plays a couple of games of Cup. Maybe he gets a run in the last round versus the Panthers if we're short of numbers this year. So who knows in first grade. So
You
yeah.
never know. I'd like to see him before the end of the year. I think
Mm.
he'd be pretty frustrated too, to especially get an opportunity by Benji to come to a club like West Tigers, and even if it's just through Magpies, to play as many games as possible. But I think if he doesn't get onto the field, that's really going to annoy him. So
Yeah.
I would hope that Benji will give him an extended olive branch for next season. I think it might happen. I just think he's a diamond, right? He's a diamond that's been covered in dust for too long. So if he, like I said, if he can get fit, well, he's already fit. But if he can get a full off season under his belt, um, bulk up just a little bit more because he has gone very lean and athletic, which is great. But and keep his head screwed on, head in the right place, he could definitely be something worth looking into next season. So let's see what happens with Josh Schuster over the next couple of weeks, especially. You did say it's a possibility that he may be named this week, so I'll be keeping an eye on lower grade team sheets for the next couple of days. But
I'd
maybe
be
next.
very excited to see him get a run. I mean,
So
that's
would
one of
I.
there isn't much excitement left in this season. I think that'd be a very exciting
It's
part of it. So yeah,
We've got to have something to hold on to, Josh.
got to
So
have something.
let's hold on to Josh Schuster.
And you're
Uh,
right, he is talented. Like he could,
yeah,
I think everyone in the NRL knows that if he got his mind and his body right, he could be anything. So, it's better to have him at your club when you're not paying him a great deal of money than it is to be than to him to be somewhere else. And as I said, as you said, we aren't paying him a great deal of money. Like it it's not 500 grand a year. It's $1,000 a week at the moment. So, that's good value.
and I don't know what his financial situation is, and I'm going to ask you a question shortly around this. But when you think about that he's not here on much money, if we get him next year for a very similar financial situation, and we're offloading Jerome Luai and paying 500 grand for him to go play at Parramatta, it's not a bad swap out, keeping Josh Schuster on minimal wage.
Well, we're losing games with Jerome Luai, so
Mm.
Josh Schuster is that backup. As I said, can play back row, can play in the halves, and it's a roll of the dice. And do they always work? Probably not, but sometimes they come up trumps, and so I think it's a roll of the dice worth taking. And to our point all season, we've said we haven't had depth, and so a guy like Josh Schuster, if he gets his mind and body right, adds depth. I know we've seen Brayley come in where there's talk of Kurt Mann. We've got to add some depth, and sometimes to get that depth, we did it with Bunty, and maybe we did the same with Schuster. You take a bit of a risk on that depth, but it actually pays off over the season because the talent is there. So no, that's what I'm excited about to see what happens.
Let's see what happens. All right, Josh, let's get into a new section or segment I'm going to call Tigers Crisis Meeting. So we've spoken about the light stuff and what we've got to look forward to, but let's get into some dirty stuff. I'm going to ask you a few questions here. So honest responses. I'll see if I can chip in as well. Number one, what is the biggest problem at the West Tigers?
Uh, Actually, you said this to me before, and I thought about it, and I thought about the board, and then I thought about at the team level, maybe there's things, and there's the short term stuff like Jerome Luai leaving, I think is going into chaos, but I think if I had to use one word, or a couple of words, I think what it is professionalism, like from a top down all the way through, and this is not against necessarily individuals there. But when you're not running an organization where everything's professional, and some of that's to do with the amount of money spent off the field more than on it. But some of the things we saw in the Adam Doueihi process, and not just Adam, but the whole process and the talk about vaping whether it's true or not, and some of the things you get out in the media and the way the board was sacked and we sacked the CEO. Like, we're not a professional organization. It's not one that the best players and the parents of the best young kids can look at and go, you know what, that is an absolute top class professional organization. I know. Whereas if you look at the way the Panthers are run, or you go into the millions of dollars at the Broncos, or um, Craig Bellamy and Frank Panisi running the Storm, and they may not be successful every year, but more often than not, they will be because it's a well-run professional organization. And, talk about attention to detail previously, but we change plans, and so it's that professionalism, but also the ability to stick to a plan. Like, we one, we're probably not professional enough to have the right plan, and two, we haven't stuck to it. We had a strategic plan that Richo launched, and then he was driven out, 6 months later, and the board was in, and then we sacked some of them, we brought some of them back, and like, so from top to bottom, and a lot of that comes down to starts at the top with the board, and that's not. I'm not trying to be hugely critical of Holman Barnes, but even that's been a rotation of different people like
Mm,
who've been running that. So, um, they haven't even stuck to a plan. They've only got 20 guys to choose from, and they haven't been able to stick to a plan. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's that professionalism, ability to stick to a plan, and I think that flows down in an organization. Like, I've been in multiple organizations myself, large ones, and in some ways they're similar, but a lot of ways it comes to how does the top down culture is set, and that kind of flows through the areas in the organization, and you can't. It gives people excuses. So when you're having as a team, and things aren't necessarily
Mm,
going well, you can blame the board and you can blame the CEO, and you can in your head kind of justify why stuff doesn't happen because it's not I'm not in a professional organization, and standards aren't high, and therefore if we let this slip or don't do this or don't do that, yeah, people are going to blame the organization. They're not going to blame me, so I kind of get away with it. So that professionalism to me is what we're big problem.
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of that comes down to the people in charge, and not just from a management point of view, but right down to coaching as well. I think there's probably been a bit of imbalance with some of the decisions that have been made, and even some of the responsibilities that certain people have been given. Even talking about Benji Marshall at coach level, and that was thrust upon him by the club. They made him the coach, but they
Yeah.
also made him the coach with zero experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they picked a guy who'd never coached a game of footy, and like, I
yeah,
love Benji, but
yep,
it's not what you'd see out of a world class organization.
correct,
Like, it's
exactly
just
right,
not. You know, um,
exactly right.
they
So,
brought
so
Sheensy back from
yeah,
England, at 70, and like,
yeah,
it's yeah, yeah.
exactly, yeah, exactly. I mean, I wish we still had Richo, but that's a what if.
Mm.
Who is the most responsible? And I'm talking about who's the most responsible for our failure over many, many seasons, including this year.
I mean, it's got to come down to the owners, and I don't. This is
Yeah,
not, as I said, it's not to be personally critical of any of the individuals there. Again, like, and I think you could be, but I'm not going to be. But you own the organization, you set the tone for the organization, and that's what a board is for, and that's
yeah,
what the owners are for. Um, and so, did they do all the things? No, but do they set the tone for the amateur hour performance
mm,
and things? Board signs off on the coach, and um board sacked half the board, and it's the Holman Barnes Group board, and this is, and I'm not sure. I will say, people will say this is a West versus Balmain thing. Balmain wasn't a professional organisation either.
no,
Like,
no,
they let theirs go broke. Like, so it's not. Um, we took two not professional organisations, and neither of them have proved very much that they have that professionalism. I mean, and that's not a one versus the other. It's both have been unprofessional over years, and we've had that culture in the club. So I think you've got to start at the top, and that is the ownership, and that's the Balmain and the Holman Barnes and the everyone involved at that level, and that flows down to an unprofessional organisation. And so, yeah, that's who's responsible. Um, and you can't have, you ask for a CEO. Richo did a lot to try and fix that, and he got driven out. But even then, it's not one person's job to fix it. It's everyone's job to fix it. But the owners are the most responsible. That's who they are. That's their job.
very correct. And we haven't run very well for long periods of time, have we? Over 26 or so years. It's been very short spurts where the club's actually looks like a half decent organisation.
And even then, that's we've had some success on the field. I'm not sure we've been an overly successful professional
Yeah,
organisation, even in those.
Yeah.
those years when it was
Too
okay,
dysfunctional.
and
Yep.
too dysfunctional, and 3 home grounds every year. I mean,
That's
that's like
nomadic from day one.
nomadic.
Yep.
You look, Manly get to the finals because they win most of their games at Brookie most years.
Correct.
Like
Yep.
teams win home games. Like
Yep.
every team has a better record at home, um, but when you have 3 home grounds, and it doesn't matter which ones, or and then we changed where that was, and we played at the
Yeah.
SFS. We played it, played at the Olympic Park, and then we're playing at Parramatta, and we're playing this many at Campbelltown and this many. And then we went to half and half at Campbell Leichhardt, and then we changed it again, and Richo changed that, and I get it, but
Yep.
there's just no, they haven't stuck to a plan for 20 years. So,
Nope.
yeah, yeah.
And we continue to be nomadic. But anyway,
Mhm.
let's get on to my next question. I only got two more. What is the one thing you'd change tomorrow?
That's a good question, Nick. And I thought about would I would I have one home ground and just be
Mm.
done with it? But I think we've invested the money and money's coming in for both of those. Does it solve the problem having a bit more money in either of those? I don't know. Um,
And
what
I
I
don't
would
mind that. I don't mind that going forward. I don't mind playing, even if it's two-thirds of the games or three-quarters of the games at Campbelltown and the rest at Leichhardt. I don't mind a 50-50 split, or we're playing
eight
Leichhardt and
four and
Campbelltown.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
what
stick to it.
exactly?
Mm.
Stop playing at Combank. Stop going, like you said, to football stadium or Allianz,
Yeah,
or not Allianz, ANZ, or whatever it's called out
yeah,
over at
yeah,
Homebush. But
yeah, yeah.
stick, yeah,
I think that makes that's probably, but I'd I'd sell the joint, like to some
100%.
professional
To Elon Musk.
organization to run it. Well, no, look, I know it's not necessarily an individual private, definitely not Elon Musk, but there's definitely an individual private investor. I think that sometimes has its challenges as well. So I think it's a process, and what I do is go through a professional process of due diligence to find the right owners and find the right approach to that. And I like an independent board, and so maybe it's shareholders. Maybe the Broncos are actually a publicly traded company. So that to me is probably the right direction for a club with controversy. And maybe Holman Barnes can keep 20% and Balmain can keep 10%, and the other 70% trade on the stock market. And we can all buy shares in sorrow of the West Tigers. But if it turns around, those shares will jump up in value. So I would privatize. Actually, that's what I do. One thing tomorrow. I would put the company on the stock market and allow people to buy shares and make it and
That'd be cheap.
then you've got all the responsibilities that go with a stock market company about, how you run a
Yeah.
business as well. So I think that adds some professionalism, and maybe we're bought up partly by a giant sporting organization that knows how to run sporting organizations. So,
Yep.
yeah, that'd be my big change is you got to start from the top, change it
I
all.
agree. I like that one. Privatization sounds good. Last question, Josh. Do you still believe that Benji is the man to take us forward?
You know what? I spoke when I was answering the other questions about sticking to a plan.
Mm.
And so, yes, I say we stick to a plan. Was it the right plan to begin with? I'm not sure it was, but just changing it now, like when we came into this, we've had Madge who went on to win premierships, had Ivan who went on to win premierships. We've had Tim Sheens who won a premiership here. We've had Jason Taylor and Mick Potter who went on to be reserve grade coaches. So there've been
Mm.
different levels. But the last two coaches before Benji were Madge and Ivan Cleary, and they couldn't make it work. And there was too much go. So look, Benji's there. Stick with Benji. Give him the support and the resources and the consistency, and stick to a plan. You know what? Because other changing coach hasn't worked, and we've had very dramatic changes of coach over the time. So you know what? We're there. We've made the deal. We can spend that money on instead of paying him out on running the organization better.
Mm.
And maybe that's it. The money they would have to pay him out, invest that extra money into the club. Like add another $500,000 or $1 million every year on top of what you're paying Benji to improve the way the club runs. So yeah, stick to the plan. Stick to the plan.
I agree. I think he needs another shot. I think he needs another year of good faith. I also think he needs some help. So maybe that's something else that the club needs to look at. And that's been spoken about is potentially changing the assistant coach
Mm.
or coaches or coaching staff around him and bringing in that little bit of experience that we're probably lacking. I think Benji does need a fresh set of eyes around him in terms of, or in regards to strategy and game plan. I think as a player who is a really off the cuff player, and I think sometimes watching the West Tigers that they seem to be trying to play an off the cuff style rather than a structured style of footy, which most teams play. So maybe Benji just needs another experienced opinion next to him. Maybe that's what we need to, to go to the next step, along with some other decent recruits that are going to add value to what we've already got as well. So
Yeah, look, we went through that 17 before, and I don't think there's a great deal of need for like top of the line. I mean, for guys, given the guys are out there, I don't think there's a great deal of need for too much recruitment. There's a little more depth players.
yeah,
Um, I agree with you. I think probably a little bit of the change in like that they should sit down and do a proper review and not a, Clayton's
yeah,
review. They should do a proper review. But also, I look at some of the success I've seen when clubs are elsewhere. We have Sean, who's, got a lot on his plate as a CEO and is a first-time NRL CEO. We have Benji, who's 2 years into coaching. Actually, what I want is a head of football. Like,
yeah,
bring in a guy to do all that. Like, and Richo could do both, absolutely, because he'd done it for 30 years and knew how it all worked. Like, you don't need that. But actually, what I want is an experienced head of football to go to Benji. You know what, Benj? You already know you've already got most of your squad there. They're signed up for a while. I'm going to make the rest of the things around you work really well, and maybe you bring in an assistant to kind of give you a different look and give you that kind of a guy, someone with more coaching experience, I think, and even if it's assistant coaching, right, you know, um, 20 years of assistant coaching experience because they've just seen a lot of programs. But actually, what I want is a head of football to come in and not to be in charge of Benji but to run the place for Ben, because Benji feels like, to me, Benji's doing everything. And it talks about, we don't talk about recruitment, but you do all the Benji does all the recruitment. Why? Like, why is Benji
yeah.
actually in your first 2 or 3 years of coaching with, and also your first year of being a CEO, have someone to come in and run the footy that reports into Sean, and Benji can report into Sean as he still does today. Like, it's not about giving Benji a boss; it's about Benji not having to do as much. Like, let him focus on the things he has to do. So, um, you know, um, who that is, I don't know. That's a big question there, you know. But go out there and find the right person to. And that one ahead of football probably should be someone that Benji has a strong relationship with
Yeah.
because you want it to work and you want it to work together. And say, look, you guys are partners. It's not like
Mm.
people I work with at the same level who do different jobs. Like that's important. Like yeah, so that to me would be. Do I want to see an assistant? Yes, but what I want to see is a head of football to come in and help professionalize the joint.
Surely Wayne Bennett wants to hang up the coaching boots and take on a new role of head of football at Concord. It must
Yeah,
be
it'd be
time for a
great.
career
Why wouldn't you
change.
come here? But like it can be
Yeah,
Bennett. It doesn't even have to be someone um, who's been a coach. Like they're not necessarily, but it's
yeah,
someone who knows how a football department
yeah.
works and should run. Like go and
Yes.
find the Frank Panisi to Craig Bellamy, that kind of not.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt he comes, but that kind of position to say a guy who just runs the place behind the scenes and gets it all done. So yeah, sets
We
the
can only hope.
standards.
We can only hope, Josh. We can only hope something like
We
that
can,
happens in
Nick.
the future. But we will wait with holding our breath. We'll be holding our breath very tightly until someone like that walks in the door into that role. But anyway, let's have a quick chat about this Sunday because at
Ah.
4:05 we are playing the team coming first, the Sydney Roosters. Now the forecast looks fine. I don't know if it's probably bad because it's going to be a dry track. And the Roosters are quite dangerous right across the park. But before we get into the team lists, head to head played 40 times according to NRL.com. Roosters have won 30 to West Tigers 10. Not very
I'm
good.
surprised we'd won 10, to be honest. That felt better. That was better than I was expecting, Nick.
Yeah,
Thought
not
40, you were going to go 38 or something. So,
very.
yeah, I'm
Well,
feeling
there
good
you go.
about it.
We've won 10. Head to heads, I'd actually forgotten we beat them last year in July, early July. We beat them 30 to 28.
I went back and watched the highlights of that
Yeah.
this week just because I wanted to feel good about a Roosters match, and I remembered that we did beat them. We played really well. I will say, Latu was playing halfback that day, played 80 minutes, maybe a few, and he was dominant. So I was very excited. That was on Monday. I watched those highlights. I
Yeah.
was very excited to kind of him to be named on Tuesday, and
It's
you
cruel,
know,
isn't it?
but he was fantastic. So yeah, no, we did play very well in that game last year and beat the
Mm.
Roosters for the first time in a long time. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come this weekend.
Hopefully, I'm a little bit scared, but you look at the form guide as well. Roosters have won their last, well, NRL.com only goes through the last 5 games. They are
That's
undefeated and we
enough.
are defeated.
Yeah, it's
So,
fitted.
yeah, form guide's not too good. You look at their team, they are just star-struck all across the park. Their backs, James Tedesco. You look at the centers, Hugo Savala, Robert Toya. Mark Nawanganidoasa in the wing with Billy Smith. Cherry Evans and Sam Walker's playing great footy in the halves. Like their whole back line is quality. I'll just talk quickly about our back line. Jarrell Skelton's back on one wing, and Jock Madden and his balls are back in the halfback jersey. So bit
Well,
of a
look,
difference.
I did say last week we've had 7 wins this year, and Jock has played in 5 of them. So
He has,
if we're going to
yep.
win, he's a genuine halfback. Like he might not be, his defense might not be, and I have some real concerns about that. Jock Madden, Patrick Herbert, Jarrell Skelton edge out there that
Mm-hmm.
the Roosters. But I did notice that that the Roosters Tupou actually is not playing. So Billy Smith is on the wing there. So
Yep.
maybe it's not quite as Savala, Billy Smith. Kind of against Herbert and Skelton. Maybe it's not quite that bad. So, yeah, it's the Tedesco part and the halves in Cherry Evans and Walker, I think, is scary at
It
times
is a
for
bit
us.
scary.
But
And of course, Teddy up against his junior club, so he'll obviously be looking for another big game. And I think the Roosters will just be looking to lock in that, staying on top of the ladder and getting that one step closer to minor premiership too. So
they did have a very hard game. I mean, it was on Friday, which gives them an extra couple of days of
yeah,
recovery. But they did have a very hard game, and they would have been right up for that Penrith game. And they've obviously been up for a few weeks. They've had the Panthers. They had a big game against the Bulldogs. They put 80 on the Cowboys. They had a close game against the Knights, and big game against. It's always a big game against the Storm. So
yep.
I'm hoping they've had a lot of big games. They're kind of getting ready for the finals. They're putting in a bit of extra training
Mm.
they're due for a loss, the Roosters, that
This
that
is the
loss
week.
before the finals. And you know what? If you're the Roosters and you're coming off those games, coming a big game against the Panthers, it's got to be a little hard to get up for an 11 for an 8 game losing streak, Tigers.
Yeah,
Like you're not going to be fully switched on. So
yep.
maybe there's a chance for an ambush this week, Nick. The
There could
Tigers
be an ambush.
ambush.
You never know, Josh. We'll see what happens. Alex Twal's
Yeah.
back in the 13 jersey, so good to see Twally back this week after falling ill last week. And the other interesting change in our team is Taruva. I know hobbled a little bit with a leg injury last week, but he's actually named on the extended bench with Skelton taking his place. So what is happening there?
I do wonder if that's a smoke signal for maybe someone else getting a run, but it's weird. Like, why would you?
Yeah.
Originally thought he might be named on the bench because Tupou was playing and 190 centimeters versus 100 and low 180s, and I thought Skelton's a bigger body. Maybe that's the
Mm.
the Tupou versus Taruva. But as you said, like if he was injured, then why name him at all? And then yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether he actually plays. It's a strange one. I thought, yeah, I don't know. That is very weird. He's been dropped. He's been dropped. I mean, it looks like he's been dropped. So, um,
Yep.
yeah,
We'll
it's a very
find it.
strange one.
We'll find out closer to Sunday whether he plays or not. And then the other interesting battle's the interchange bench. So just going quickly through Roosters, Connor Watson, Lindsay Collins, Nat Butcher, Egan Butcher, 14 through 17 against Heath Mason, Sione Fainu, Alex Seyfarth, and Bunty Afoa. So lucky we've got super sub Heath Mason there in the 14 jersey. He'll
Look,
just dominate all of those
the
boys.
rest of our forwards are like that's an okay bench forward rotation.
Yeah.
Sione,
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex, and Bunty.
There's a
Like
few
it's
big
not
boys. Yep.
like and our forward pack against the Roosters forward pack. It's not like I don't feel overwhelmed with that. Their
Mm.
second rowers, Feketi and Wong is not their top second rowers. I feel like our pack can probably hold its own. If they're fully fit, our boys versus that six, I feel like our boys could hold their own. It's the back line that worries me. That's probably where the
Yep.
Roosters and the fact they're just in form and confident and fit. Like that's really the worry is but I did see Tommy Talau at the bottom of the
Yeah.
Roosters bench there. So ex-Tiger. He'll be up for a big game, although he probably won't get on at number 19. So
Probably
that's
won't get
yeah.
on. So I know after the last week, I was so flat after our eighth loss in a row, losing to Dragons twice, and then watching the Roosters obviously dominate, all of their opposition that they've played over the last 4, 6 weeks. I honestly thought we're going to lose by 100. Then I had this weird feeling on Monday. I don't know why, before the team was announced, that maybe there is an ambush on this weekend. Maybe the West Tigers do have a chance. Now, maybe I'm a bit delirious,
I'm
and
with
it's
you
that
though.
end of the season where I
Uh,
probably am a bit delirious. Um, I'm probably not going to tip the Tigers in my tipping comp. A part of me is hopeful, not very hopeful, But I kind of think this could go either of two ways, Josh. I can either see the Tigers having the upset of the season and winning by a point, and it's going to be a Jock Madden field goal, or we're going to lose by 100. I don't know which way it's going to go. Most people probably say it's to lose by 100, but
I'm going to go with the win by. I win by 2 points, Nick. I
win by
think
two.
we won by two last year. I think the boys are up for the same. I think we're up for the fight. I think having a proper halfback, we'll see. We'll see. And I think Jareem showed something last week. I think he was better. I think Sakuru, after his 2 tries last week, is going to get 3 this week. He's gonna blow the Roosters apart there on the edge on that. Who's defending on the right for them? Robert Toya. I mean, the size of Solomon Sakuru.
Mm.
Uh, I think the Tigers are going to get up by 2. They're going to repeat last year's efforts and 30-28 again this year. I think and surprise upset of the year.
I
Feeling
hope
it.
you're. I hope you're right. For the pod's sake, I'm going to go with the Tigers victory. I'm going to say we're going to win 25-24. I think Jock's going to have a blinder. I think he's going to kick all of conversions and kick that field goal to give us the victory. So let's run with that.
Yep.
Not confident, but I'm going to run with it. So
It's better than predicting a 100-point loss, because who wants
I
to see
can't do
that?
that.
And I
Yeah,
don't think we will.
yeah,
I thought, we haven't won the last 2 weeks. The effort and I thought the last 15 minutes was really good, but the effort for probably 50 minutes of the game was good. And if we can put
yeah.
that effort in for 50, even if we have a bad 20, I think we don't get flogged. So I don't think we'll get flogged, but I'm predicting a close win with a bit of luck going our way. We
If we
deserve the
can,
luck.
if we can play a little bit more enterprising footy, like we did the sort of back 10, 15 minutes of that game last week, then maybe we'll give the Roosters a bit of a fright. But
Heath
let's see what
Mason to
happens.
come off the bench and score 2 tries, actually. That's how we're going to get to our 30 points. So through the
You never
middle.
know. You
Yeah.
never know. Let's see what happens. But that is 4:05 on Sunday. So thank you, Josh. It's been fun for everyone listening. We really appreciate your support as always. I know that we still get quite a few people watching the YouTube streams and also listening to the audio. So thank you very much. So continue to like, share, and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Joel should be back for the weekend. Maybe we can coerce Declan to get back onto the pod soon and have a chat about West Tigers. Maybe he'll
I
take a
reckon if the
victory, Josh.
Tigers win, we'll
There
have
might be a
people
chance.
flooding back into the podcast on a Sunday night. So let's see what happens.
There's probably no surprise why there's only two of us here, Josh. We are the heart and soul at the moment, holding the podcast together. So good on you, mate. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you,
on.
Nick. Go the Tigers.
Go Tigers.